It was a normal morning in Ouagadougou. The sun had just started rising, and the streets were already busy with people going to work, markets, and bus stations. In a black presidential car, President Ibrahim Traoré was sitting quietly, reading a security report while heading for a surprise visit to a new government project. But suddenly, something shocking happened. A woman wearing an old wrapper and dusty blouse ran into the road and collapsed right in front of the president's car. The driver hit the brakes quickly. "Mr. President, someone just jumped in front of us," he shouted. "Stop the car," President Traoré said firmly, and stepped out without waiting. His guards tried to clear the way, but he stopped them. "Don't touch her," he ordered. The woman was crying on the ground, her body shaking and covered in dust. The president knelt beside her and gently asked, "Madam, are you okay? Why did you run in front of my car?" When the woman saw who was talking to her, she cried even harder. "Mr. President, please help me. They want to kill my only son." The president looked serious. "What do you mean?" he asked. Still crying, the woman explained everything. She looked grown up and asked to stay at his house. Ramsey treated her kindly and refused to touch her, saying it was too early for anything. While he was in the kitchen cooking, the girl secretly put something in his drink. When he came back, he felt dizzy and passed out. The next morning, she was gone. 2 months later, her father called and said she was pregnant. Ramsey was shocked because he didn't remember anything. But still, he offered to marry her. That's when the father told him she was actually 17. Ramsey said, "She told me she was 25. But no one listened. The man was rich and powerful. He used his money to bribe the police and the judge. He wanted to destroy Ramsey's life. The girl tried to remove the pregnancy under her father's pressure and died during the process. They blamed Ramsey and said he must be punished. He was sentenced to death by firing squad. The mother cried as she told this story. "I begged them. I went to their house and knelt on the ground. But the guards beat me and called me a poor widow with no value. That's why I came here today. They said my son will die in 3 days." The president listened in silence, then said, "Put her in the car. We're going to the Ministry of Justice. Call the Chief of Staff and Director of National Security." He looked at the woman and said, "Mama, your son will not die. I promise you." As they drove off, the mother looked out of the window, still shaking but holding on to hope. For the first time in weeks, she felt someone had finally heard her. Inside the car, the president was deep in thought. The Minister of Justice. "I want all case files on Ramsey Khan on my desk within an hour. Tell the prison warden we're stopping the execution. Also, get the judge who passed the sentence. And tell the press to stay quiet for now." At the prison, Ramsey lay on a cold floor, weak and heartbroken. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. The guards treated him like a criminal. He whispered to himself, "I didn't do anything. God knows I didn't." Then, heavy boots echoed through the hallway. a senior officer came to his cell and said, "Ramzi Khan, you're not dying today. You're coming with us. Presidential orders." Back at the president's office, the top officials were gathered. President Traoré read through Ramzi's case file. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "She said she was 25. There's no criminal record, no real evidence, no medical proof, yet he was sentenced to death." The officials agreed that Chief Makin used his money to bribe the judge. "This is why people lose trust in the justice system," the president said. "This is why mothers cry in the street. I must act." Just then, a call came. Ramzi had arrived. He entered the office, tired, dirty, and confused. "Mr. President, am I free?" he asked with disbelief. The president walked to him and said gently, "You're not just free. You were wrongfully accused. I'm sorry this country failed you." Ramzi broke down in tears. The president continued, "Your mother told me everything. I believe her. Now I believe you. The judge will be arrested. Chief Makin will be investigated immediately." Ramzi nodded and told his side of the story. The president listened carefully, then said, "That's enough. The truth is already speaking." Later that night, Ramzi was placed in a warm guest room. He ate hot food, drank clean water, and finally had a shower. But his heart still felt heavy. The pain of injustice will be done. And your story will remind this country and the world that the poor also deserve to be heard. Then he smiled. "You're going home today, son. You believed in me. No one else did. You should thank your mother," Traoré said, smiling gently. "She risked her life for you. She stood in front of my car and refused to move until someone listened." Ramzi nodded slowly. "She's the only reason I'm still breathing." Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Chief Makin sat in an interrogation room, sweat dripping from his forehead. He wore expensive clothes, but now looked like a man completely defeated. Across from him sat an officer from the Presidential Task Force. "You bribed the judge, Chief Makin." No, We have recordings, bank transfers, witness statements. You forced your daughter to get an abortion and she died." Chief Makin shouted in defense. "She embarrassed our family. She was carrying a mechanic's child. I did what any father would do." The officer's voice was ice cold. "No, sir. You did what a wicked man would do. And now you will pay." Just then, another officer walked in. "Sir, the president has just ordered that this case be made public. The entire country will know the truth." Chief Makin buried his face in shame. The next morning, headlines covered every newspaper. President Traoré saves innocent man from death sentence. The people of Burkina Faso were stunned. Many had lost hope in the justice system, but now they felt inspired. Social media exploded with praise for President Ibrahim Traoré. Mothers, widows, and the poor felt seen for the first time. The nation. Burkina Faso will not be a land where the poor are crushed by the rich. Not under my watch. Later that evening, During a national TV address, President Traoré stood before the cameras. There are many Ramses in our country, young people who have been failed by the system. That is why we must clean our courts. That is why power must never silence the poor. He paused and looked directly into the camera. To the mothers who cry alone, to the innocent boys behind bars, to every widow who feels forgotten, I hear you, I see you, and I will fight for you. The country listened and believed. That night, as Ramsey and his mother sat outside their modest home under the stars, she touched his shoulder and whispered, "You were almost killed for something you didn't do, but God fought for you." Ramsey looked up at the sky, "And he sent the president to find me." The next day, President Ibrahim Traoré summoned the heads of the judiciary, police, and prison services to a private meeting at the State House. His face was calm, but his voice thundered. "We came this close to killing an innocent man," he said, lifting Ramsey's case file. "Why?" No one answered. He raised the file even higher. "Why?" The Chief Justice cleared his throat nervously. "Mr. President, the system is broken," Traoré snapped. "This file shows how a rich man, with a pen and a bag of money, bought judgment and buried truth. Ramsey Coney was sentenced to death without proper investigation. Just money and connections." He turned to the Inspector General. "Your men beat his mother while she cried for justice. They treated her like an animal. Is that the job of the police?" The inspector bowed his head. "We failed her, Mr. President," President Traoré continued. "From today, any officer who lays a hand on an unarmed civilian will be removed and face justice. I'm establishing an independent justice monitoring task force. Ramsey's case isn't the only one. We will find the others." He turned to the Minister of Justice. "Review all death sentence cases from the last 5 years. Every single one." "Yes, Mr. President." Then, to his assistant, "Make sure the widow, Ramsey's mother, receives medical care and financial support. She should never have to worry again." Inside a detention cell, Chief McCung sat handcuffed. The press camped outside the court, awaiting the trial of a once powerful man. Charges: bribery, abuse of power, obstruction of justice. His mother came out and hugged him. "Whether you believe it or not, you're a symbol of justice." That day, he received a letter from the State House, handwritten by the President himself. "Dear Ramsey, you were wrongly accused, but you kept your dignity. You were almost killed, but you remained calm. That strength is what this country needs. I want you to work with my new Justice Monitoring Task Force. We need people who have felt the pain of injustice to help us stop it." President Ibrahim Traoré. Ramsey's hands trembled. "Me?" he whispered. "Work with the president?" His mother smiled. "God lifts the humble. I told you, you're not just anybody anymore." That evening, Ramsey visited his father's grave. He knelt quietly. "Papa, I wish you were here to see this. Life tried to kill me, but I'm still standing." The wind rustled through the trees. This was not just Ramsey's victory. It was a victory for truth, a victory for justice. 1 week later, inside the Supreme Court of Burkina Faso, Chief Makung sat at the defendant's table. Even his expensive lawyer looked defeated. The courtroom was full. Journalists, activists, students, and ordinary citizens had come to witness history. A powerful man finally held accountable. The judge, appointed by a special presidential panel, entered. After presenting the bribery transactions, forged reports, and abuse of influence, the judge gave the ruling. Chief Makung, this court finds you guilty of bribery, perverting the course of justice, and indirectly causing the death of your daughter. You are hereby sentenced to 30 years in prison with hard labor. There was no applause, only quiet tears of relief. For once, justice had spoken. That evening, President Traoré stood before a large town hall crowd. Ramsey and his mother were there, along with others now receiving second chances. Ramsey's story is not just about him, the president said. It's about all of us. It's about a country where truth must not be for sale, where the weak are not forgotten. He turned to Ramsey and smiled. This young man was ready to die for something he didn't do. But today, he lives, not just because he was saved, but because he now stands for something greater. The crowd cheered. Ramsey stepped forward, nervous, but steady. I thank the president. I thank everyone who believed in me. I thank my mother who never stopped praying. I'm no longer. A single act of compassion had saved a life. And that life went on to change many more. Dear viewers, if you were moved by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring video. Thank you for watching.